Hi everyone. Since you have liked the video so far and a couple of you have asked me to do some more, I decided to do another one tonight. I'm making spaghetti carbonara tonight. It's, I guess some would argue as to whether it's truly an Italian dish or if it was sort of an American influenced dish that has been attributed to Italy, but either way, most of you have probably had it, but I would be willing to bet that a lot of you have not attempted to make it at home. So what I'm cutting up right now is pancetta and guanciale. You can use either of them. In fact, you could actually use bacon, but I don't recommend it. It's not quite as good. If you're going to use bacon, use the thick slab bacon. You can get these at most of the grocery stores. Pancetta, sometimes you can get pre-cut up. And the guanciale is a little bit harder to come from. I got this piece up at Wybrook Farms. The pancetta comes from the belly of the pig, and it is it's a cured meat like bacon, whereas the guanciale actually comes from the jowls or cheek of the pig. It actually even comes from the Italian word guancia, which is Italian for cheek. So you can see that they're similar, but and at least in this piece, there's a little bit more fat on the cheek portion of it, as opposed to the pancetta that has a little bit more of the striations there. I'm cutting these into pieces, I don't know, probably about, what is that? Maybe 1/4 of an inch square. Really doesn't matter exactly how big you have them. Like I said, you can find them. This one piece is really tough. Either that or I need to sharpen my knife. There we go. But when you get them at the grocery store, I think they come cut up a little bit smaller than that. You can also get them in the deli department, but like I said, you don't want to get thin sliced pieces. You want to ask them to give you a thick slice, so ask them to give you about a 1/2 inch slice, and then you can cut that up just like we're doing here. So once I have these all cut up, these are going to go into a small skillet with just a little bit of olive oil, and you're going to brown them enough just for the fat to start to render, not so that they become crisp, just so that they start to brown on the edges and the fat will render or become translucent, start to liquefy. So I already had that pan on to heat. I'm going to throw a little bit of olive oil in there, and then we're going to put both kinds of meat in there. Again, you can use one or the other. Like I said, I had a little bit of both. And we're going to let that come up. In the meantime, I'm going to chop up some garlic. A lot of Italian recipes, surprisingly, do not have a ton of garlic. Our Americanized versions of some of the Italian recipes, we tend to load up on the garlic, and I love garlic, so I definitely am going to include it in this dish. I can see my water's coming on to boil over here. While you're doing all your chopping and working on the pancetta or guanciale, you want to have your pot on to boil, and then just lightly salt the water. I'm throwing the garlic in here as well, just to get that a little bit browned. There we go. And we're going to salt our water here. And the spaghetti, we're going to use about 3/4 of a package, about 12 ounces of spaghetti. Actually, it's not quite boiling yet now that I put the salt in, so I'm going to give that a couple of minutes. In the meantime, we're going to use 2 eggs and 2 egg yolks, which means you'll have to separate 2 of these. I always save the egg whites and you can use them for an omelet tomorrow morning. So 2 full eggs and 2 egg yolks. Now, you'll notice in this recipe, the eggs are not fully cooked. The hot pasta will semi-cook the eggs. But for those of you that are worried about salmonella, certainly there is that slim possibility. But in Pennsylvania, the risk is somewhere between 1 in 10,000 and 1 in 40,000 of actually having salmonella in the eggs. I just realized I did that wrong. I wanted this. So what I'm going to do is be tricky here and scoop out half of the egg white. See, that's what happens when I'm talking at the same time as doing this. Anyway, so the risk of getting salmonella from half-cooked eggs is actually quite low, unless you plan on having 40,000 of them over your lifetime. We're going to mix that together there, and then we're going to put some Parmesan in there. But in the meantime, just looking to see if my water came up to boil. It has not yet. We're going to season the eggs with a little bit of salt, some ground black pepper. Actually, I'm going to tighten this up here. That pepper's a little, there we go. With a little bit bigger pieces of pepper than I necessarily wanted in there. And then you can use Pecorino Romano, you can use Parmesan, whatever kind of hard cheese that you like. This one's Parmesan that I'm using this time. You're going to shred, probably a half to 2/3 of a cup of cheese into the egg mixture. By the way, for this, it is better for the eggs to be at room temperature because they're going to be, like I said, partially cooked by the pasta. So you're better off if you're starting with them already somewhat warm, so you don't have to get them quite as warm as coming straight out of the fridge. There we go. Now I can hear the pancetta is starting to sizzle a bit. The boiling water is back up to a rolling boil, and I've got just about enough cheese in there. So we're going to pull this lid off. As I said, we're going to put about 12 ounces, 3/4 of the box or so of the pasta in here, and stir that down in. Now you're going to only cook the pasta till it just before it's al dente. Because it's going to cook just a little bit more when you put some of the pasta water and so forth in after it's drained down. So we only want about 5 minutes on this pasta here. So look at my clock, it's 6:12. We'll keep an eye on that. At 6:17, that's going to be ready to go. In the meantime, you can see that our guanciale and pancetta is just starting to render. You can see some of the oil coming out of the bottom of it there, and the fat's starting to turn clear. Not quite ready to go yet. And then that garlic, it smells so good. So we're going to come back over here to our cheese and yolk mixture, and we're going to stir this all in together. You can see those nice pieces of black pepper in there. You have to use the eggs. If you try to do the eggs with this dish, it's not carbonara. There is a dish that's very similar to this, but that would be cacio and pepe, and that's not the same as this dish. So don't be afraid of the eggs. You'll be fine with them. So the spaghetti is getting very close to al dente right now, so I'm going to bring it over here and I'm going to do something interesting. Instead of pouring this over the sink, I'm actually going to pour this into a colander that's over a big mixing bowl. I'm doing this for a couple of reasons. Number one, you do want to reserve some of the pasta water, not all of this. But more importantly is that we need a bowl that is nice and hot to be able to toss the pasta around in. So this kills two birds with one stone. Instead of having to put hot water in a separate bowl, I've actually done it right here. So you've got your drained pasta, you've got your nice hot bowl here. Reserve some of the pasta water. So I'm just going to grab a cupful or so here, put that off to the side. We can get rid of the rest of the pasta water, but we've got a nice hot bowl in which we can throw pasta, then our cheese and yolk mixture, and then our pancetta and guanciale. So this is all going to be tossed around here. You really want to make sure this is well mixed. This is how you're heating up your egg mixture here. You can see how that's steaming. The hot pasta, the hot, oh gosh, does that smell good. The hot pork bits in here, and the cheese is starting to melt around. So good. So now what we're going to do, we're going to plate this. I'm going to put a little bit more Parmesan on top of it, and that's it. So here it is. I steamed some peas to have on the side, but I'm going to take a bite, make sure I get a piece of pork in there with it. Mmm, they're so creamy. It's delicious.